You might not notice this, but the steak appearing on your dinner table every day is not just a dish. It is a global phenomenon. Today, variations of steak appear in over 100 countries, from Italy's bistecca and France's steak frites to Japan's renowned Wagyu steak. In the United States alone, billions of pounds of beef are consumed every year, and steak always remains among the most preferred choices. But here is the interesting thing. Despite being prepared in hundreds of different ways, the name steak is used almost universally across the world. So, how did a simple word manage to travel so far? Where did it begin? And why did humans choose to call these pieces of meat steak instead of any other name?
I am Edward, and this is QC Project Simple Things. Today, join me as we explore the truth behind that familiar name.
To truly understand the soul of a steak, we must look beyond the modern restaurant and travel back to the rugged world of the Vikings. The word finds its origin in the Old Norse term steik and its sister word steikja. In the harsh climates of Scandinavia 1,000 years ago, cooking was a matter of necessity and simplicity. Steik literally meant to roast on a spit or to cook on a stick. It wasn't about a specific animal or a prized cut of meat. It was a description of a method. If you had a piece of meat and a sharpened branch to hold it over a crackling fire, you were making a steak. So, we know that steak was born from the dance between meat and open flame. In those ancient times, the stick was the primary tool that allowed heat to transform tough muscle fibers into something tender and full of flavor. Before the word steak settled into the English dictionary, it was the sizzling sound of a warrior's meal over a campfire. It was a raw, primitive term for a raw, primitive way of eating, long before the world knew porcelain plates or silver forks. Words, much like recipes, travel across oceans and borders through the people who carry them. The transition of steak into the English language began around the 15th century, during the Middle English period. As the Norse settlers integrated into British society, their vocabulary for cooking merged with local dialects. The Old Norse steak evolved into the Middle English steak. At that time, it didn't just refer to beef. It described any thick slice of meat or even fish that was suitable for high-heat roasting. It was a word of action, born from the smoke of ancient hearths and brought into the communal kitchens of medieval England. By the mid-1400s, steak began appearing in culinary manuscripts, slowly narrowing its meaning. While we now associate it almost exclusively with cattle, back then you might have ordered a venison steak or even a fish steak. The word beefsteak didn't become a common staple of the English language until the 1700s. As England's cattle industry grew, the abundance of high-quality beef caused the word to stick specifically to those juicy cuts. The word survived centuries of war and cultural shifts, proving that while empires may fall, a good way to cook meat is a universal language that never truly dies. Have you ever wondered why a whole roast or a meatball is never called a steak? Over time, the name became reserved for one specific shape, a thick slice cut across the muscle. This wasn't just for looks. It was a clever trick to make meat taste better. By cutting across the grain of the muscle, we shorten the tough fibers, making the meat feel much more tender in every bite. This flat shape also ensures that as much of the meat as possible touches the hot pan, creating that savory browned crust that we all crave. This rule is so strong that even when we eat cauliflower steak or tuna steak, our brains know exactly what to expect. The word steak has become a promise of a certain experience, a thick, hearty piece of food that requires a knife and a fork. It's fascinating to see how the meaning shifted through history, starting as a stick used for roasting and ending as the perfect slice on a plate. Did you know? In the 18th century, the steak became so popular in London that beefsteak clubs were formed. These were secret societies where powerful men met to eat thick slices of beef and discuss politics, cementing the steak's status as a symbol of strength and satisfaction. So, when did the terms beef and steak become associated with each other? For centuries, the word steak was an open invitation to any meat that could be grilled. In the medieval era, if a hunter brought back venison or a fisherman caught a thick salmon, they were sliced into steaks and held over the fire. However, a major shift began in the 18th and 19th centuries that changed the dictionary forever. As England and later America invested heavily in cattle farming, beef became the gold standard of protein. It wasn't just about availability, it was about the unique chemistry of beef. Unlike the lean muscle of deer or the delicate flesh of fish, beef has a high fat content that marbles through the meat, making it the perfect candidate for the steak method. The Industrial Revolution and the rise of the middle class further cemented this bond. Beef began to represent prosperity and strength. In cities like London and New York, specialized steakhouse restaurants emerged, serving massive cuts of beef to hungry workers and wealthy businessmen alike. The fat in the beef would melt and caramelize, creating a flavor profile so dominant that people slowly forgot you could make a steak out of anything else. By the time the 20th century arrived, the word steak had almost entirely lost its original meaning of cooking on a stick, and instead became synonymous with a juicy, seared piece of cattle. This shift was more than just a culinary preference, it was a cultural identity. Today, when we say, "I'm having steak for dinner," we don't need to specify it's beef. It is already understood. We have reached a point where we have to add adjectives like tuna steak or venison steak if we mean anything else. It is a fascinating evolution of language. A word that started as a Viking's simple survival technique ended up being captured and crowned by the global cattle industry, turning a humble slice of beef into the king of the modern table. By the 19th century, steak had evolved from a simple meal into a powerful statement of social standing. In the bustling streets of Victorian London and Gilded Age New York, eating a thick cut of beef was no longer just about satisfying hunger. It was about showcasing wealth. Beef was expensive to raise, transport, and preserve. Therefore, being able to order a prime beefsteak at a high-end restaurant signaled to the world that you had arrived. It was the era of the chop house and steakhouse, masculine spaces where business deals were sealed over the sizzle of fat and the clinking of heavy silverware. This connection between meat and status was deeply rooted in the cultural belief that beef gave humans strength and vigor. While the working class often survived on grains and stews, the elite dined on solid, seared cuts. This led to the rise of beefsteak clubs, exclusive societies where politicians and celebrities gathered to celebrate the noble meat. Even today, the world's most expensive steaks, like Japanese Wagyu, carry this legacy. We aren't just paying for the calories, we are paying for the craftsmanship, the rarity, and the prestige that has been attached to this slice of meat for hundreds of years. What is it about a seared piece of meat that makes it feel like more than just food? Beyond the history and the status, steak has become a universal symbol of human connection and celebration. It represents the reward after a long journey or a hard day's work. In many cultures, the act of grilling a steak is a ritual of hospitality, a way of saying, "You are valued." Whether it is an American backyard barbecue, an Argentinian asado, or a refined French bistro, steak is the centerpiece that brings people together, slowing down the pace of life so we can share stories over the flame. Steak also embodies the ultimate balance between nature and craft. It is a dish that honors the quality of the ingredient above all else. It cannot be hidden behind heavy sauces or complex processing. This simplicity requires a deep respect for the land, the animal, and the fire. When we cut into a steak, we are participating in one of humanity's oldest traditions, the mastery of fire and the appreciation of nature's bounty. It has transitioned from a Viking's survival tool into a cultural icon of freedom, strength, and the simple joy of being alive. So, why has this specific term survived through such a long stretch of time while so many other medieval words have disappeared? The secret lies in its simplicity and its deep connection to a fundamental human experience: the heat of fire. As society moved from the rough camps of the Vikings to the refined dining rooms of the modern era, steak evolved from a verb of action into a noun of desire. It endured because it adapted, successfully hitching a ride on the global expansion of cattle farming and the English language itself. Moreover, steak endures because it is a word that speaks to the senses, not just the mind. It evokes a specific sound, the sizzle, and a specific smell that is hardwired into our survival instincts. Linguists often find that words tied to basic human needs, like food and fire, are the most resilient. By narrowing its meaning to represent the highest quality of meat, steak became more than a name. It became a brand of excellence. It is a linguistic bridge that connects us to our ancestors sitting around a fire 1,000 years ago. As long as humans crave the primal joy of a seared piece of meat, the word steak will likely remain carved into our global vocabulary, as permanent as a mark on an ancient hearth. How can you tell if a steak will be a masterpiece or a disappointment in just 10 seconds? I want to give you a 10-second rule to turn you into an expert right at the meat counter. First, look for the marbling, those delicate white flecks of intramuscular fat. In 10 seconds, your eyes should spot a pattern that looks like a fine marble map. These flecks will melt during cooking, basting the meat from the inside to create that buttery tenderness. If the fat is only on the outside and not inside the muscle, the steak may be chewy and dry. Next, observe the color. A high-quality steak should be a rich cherry red, indicating it was handled properly and is full of flavor-carrying myoglobin. Finally, check the firmness and the cut. A great steak should feel firm to the touch, not slimy or soft, and it should be cut thick, at least 1 inch. A thick cut allows you to achieve that perfect charred crust without overcooking the center. Understanding these 3 simple signs, marbling, color, and thickness, is all you need to transform from a casual shopper into a true steak expert. It's about respecting the ingredient and choosing the quality that your table deserves. As we reach the end of our journey, it becomes clear that a steak is never just a piece of meat. It is a living record of human history, from the primal survival of the Vikings to the sophisticated status symbols of the modern era. Every time you hear that unmistakable sizzle in a hot pan, you are listening to a 1,000-year-old language. You are participating in a tradition that celebrates quality, patience, and the mastery of fire.
I am Edward, and this is QC Project Simple Things.
If you found this article helpful and interesting, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming journeys of discovery into the world around us. Your support is the greatest motivation for us to continue this project. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next stories.